Hi and welcome back to our YouTube channel Code and Create. I hope you're all doing great and excited to continue our journey through this project. In the last part, we built the question section, which added some dynamic interactivity to the site by allowing users to click on questions to reveal answers with smooth, animated transitions. It was a great addition to our website, making the user experience more intuitive and engaging, and I hope you had fun working through this part. Today we're diving into something equally important, the navbar. The navigation bar is the backbone of any website's user experience. It is the tool your visitors will use to easily move through your content, so it has to be functional, stylish, and smooth. In this part, we're going to build a fixed, left-aligned navbar that will remain visible as users scroll through the different sections of the site, ensuring that navigation is always within reach. Before we get started, if you're enjoying this series, please give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell as well, so you're always the first to know when we release new content. And as always, feel free to leave any comments below with your thoughts, feedback, or questions. We love hearing from you all. So what exactly are we going to do with the navbar? Let's break it down. This navbar will be minimal, stylish, and always fixed on the left side of the screen. We'll display a series of icons representing the various sections of the website. Each icon will have a corresponding label that will reveal itself with a smooth animation when you hover over it. This makes the navigation not only functional, but also intuitive and visually appealing. As the user hovers over each icon, it will subtly enlarge, giving a dynamic feel to the navigation. The hover effect will make it clear which section the user is about to navigate to. Once you click on any of the links in the navbar, the page will smoothly scroll to the corresponding section, making navigation feel seamless and intuitive. Each link is tied to a specific section of the website, and when clicked, it directs you there in a smooth, animated motion. As you interact with the navbar, the current section you're viewing will be highlighted, ensuring that you always know exactly where you are on the page. This not only enhances the user experience, but also provides a clean, elegant way to navigate through the sections. The navbar remains fixed on the left, making it easy to access at any point, no matter how far down you scroll. This allows users to fluidly explore the site without losing track of where they've been or what they are looking for. The logo in our navbar is a simple yet effective design element that adds a personal touch to the site. It consists of a bold red N followed by a small brown that's rotated vertically, giving it a sleek and modern appearance. The logo also serves as a navigation link. Clicking it will take you back to the top of the homepage, providing a quick and easy way for users to return to the beginning of the site. And to finish things off in style, at the bottom of the navbar we've added a copyright label. This updates dynamically to reflect the current year. It is these small details that really elevate the overall feel of the website and give it a polished, professional look. This navbar will be an essential part of the site, ensuring that users can easily navigate while enjoying a modern animated design. With that said, let's dive into building it and bring this navigation bar to life. Before we start to work on the navbar, I would like to do one thing. In the keyway section, there is a small issue, we need to fix it. I'm going to open question.jsx file. In the previous part, I forgot to add two important classes, box border and origin top, to the paragraph element. Without these classes, the collapsing and expanding effect of the answers doesn't work as smoothly as it could. So if we check the results, and then if we add the mentioned classes to the paragraph, as I said, we need box border and origin top. Now if we go back to the browser, then reload the page and check again the results, you will notice that we have much better effects when we expand and close the questions. Alright, so now, as I said, it's time to start to work on the navbar. Let's close these components. And in the components folder, I'm going to create a new component. It's going to be navbar.jsx. Then I'm going to create a new functional component using RAFCE. Then as usual, I'm going to add here use client. Next, we have to go to the page.js file. So in this case, I'm going to wrap the entire content with React fragments. Let's cut this content and place it inside the React fragments. And then above the development, which is the wrapper of those sections, I'm going to insert, actually, first of all, we need to import navbar. So let's change the name of the component. We need here navbar. And then we have to nest it here above the development. So let's insert here navbar. Actually, we got an error here. We need this closing fragment to be inside the parenthesis. So now we no longer have here the errors and everything works fine. So as you can see, we have here navbar. Let's go back to the navbar components and add here the content. So inside here, I'm going to add link elements, which is going to be the logo. So I'm going to add here two span elements. The first one is going to be span with the content n, I mean the letter n. And after this closing span element, I'm going to insert here dots. After that, we need second span element, in which I'm going to insert the last name, Brown. After the link elements, I'm going to open div tag, in which we need another link. So this link element will include, again, two span elements. So let's open span tag. And inside here, I'm going to insert icon. We will replace this text with an actual icon. Next, we need second span element, in which I'm going to insert the name. So here we will have icons of the sections and also the names of the sections. All right. After that, after this closing div tag, I'm going to open paragraph, which will be the paragraph for the copyright text. So we need here span element. And right now, I'm going to insert C. We will replace this with a copyright sign. And then we need dates. Let's say 2019, 2024. So actually that's it about the content of the navbar. We will replace this hard-coded data with the dynamic one from the index.js file, where we have the data of our sections. Now I'm going to style those elements. First of all, let's go to the browser. So as you can see, we have here all the elements that we have created. Now I'm going to start to customize those elements. Let's start with the first div element. Let's add here class name. So I'm going to define width, which is going to be 70 pixels. We need an arbitrary value. Next, I'm going to define the height, which is going to be full, I mean 100%. Then we need to define the position, and the position of the navbar will be fixed. Then we need left position, which is going to be 0, and also we need top position, which will be 0 as well. After that, I'm going to use flexbox. So we need flex followed by flex column. We need to align flex items vertically in a column. Next, I'm going to create some space between the flex items using justify between. After that, I'm going to define border on the right side. So we need border right. And then let's set the color of the border to gray, 200. Also, we need some padding inside the navbar. Let's use px with the value 4, and then we need py with the value 10. Okay, let's check the results. So as you can see, we have here navbar with the border on the right side. Next, I'm going to customize the span elements. I mean the first span element of the logo. Let's add here class name. So first of all, we need to define the size of the text. Let's set text to 3XL. Then we need font to be semi-bold. And also I'm going to define the color of the text. Let's use text red 400 and check the results. So as you can see, the letter N looks pretty nice. Next we have the second span element. Let's add here class name. So in case of second span element, we need display block. Then I'm going to define width, which is going to be minimum content. Next, we need to rotate the element by 90 degrees. And also, we need to rotate it from the bottom side. So the rotation, the origin of the rotation should be from the bottom side. So I'm going to define origin, bottom. Then we need text equal to 12 pixels. Also, let's define fonts and make it semi-bold. Actually, we need this class outside of the square brackets. Alright, so that's it about the logo. Next, I'm going to customize the div element, which wraps the links. So let's add here class name. I'm going to define the flex layout. We need flex. Then let's change the direction of the flex layout. We need flex column. Also, I'm going to define some gap. It's going to be 3. And then we need gap for smaller screen sizes. For add some breakpoint. The gap y property is going to be equal to 2. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, right now we have the same result because now we have just one link element here. Once we add other links for other sections, they will be placed here vertically in a column. Alright, so now it's time to customize this link element here. Let's add class name. Now I'm going to use one of the Tailwind CSS classes called group. We need this class to apply some hover effect to the children of the link element, the span elements. The group class in Tailwind CSS allows us to apply styles to child elements when a parent element is hovered or interacted with. In our case, we're using it to ensure that when the user hovers over one of the navbar links, not only does the link icon change visually, but other elements, like the text below the icon, also respond to the hover interaction. Essentially, group acts as a trigger, enabling us to target and modify the appearance of multiple child elements at the same time. So when we apply hover styles to the group class on the parent A tag, the associated styles will apply to all child elements. So let's add here group. Then we need flex layout. I'm going to change the direction. Let's set it to column. Then we need item center. And finally, I'm going to create some gap. On y-axis, the value will be 2. Okay, so now as you can see, the elements are placed vertically in a column. Next, I'm going to customize the first span element. Let's add here class name. So I'm going to define the size of the text as 2XL. Then we need text yellow 600. And now I'm going to use the class group, which we assign to the link element. So we need here group, then hover. And on hover, I'm going to increase the scale of the elements. It's going to be 125. And also we need transition all. Now, if we hover over the icon, its size will become larger. All right. After that, I'm going to customize the second span elements. So let's add here class name. I'm going to define the size of the text. And in this case, I'm going to use an arbitrary value, 10 pixels. Then I'm going to create some space between the letters using tracking wide. Now I'm going to move the element horizontally using translate x class. And in this case, we need here a negative value. So I'm going to add here minus translate x 2. And also I'm going to hide the element using opacity 0. Once we hover over the element, it should move from the left side to right. Next we need again hover using class group. So on hover, I'm going to place the elements to its default position. So we need translate x with the value 0. And then we need group hover. In this case, I'm going to set opacity to 100. Actually, here dash. Besides that, I'm going to use transition to make the smoother effect. And besides that, I'm going to use duration with the value 300. Finally, let's add here text center. So as you can see, by default, the text, the name of the section is hidden. Now if we hover over the icon, then it will appear and move from the left side to right. Okay, so everything works perfectly. Next, we have to customize the copyright text. So I'm going to add some styles to the paragraph. First of all, let's define the flex layout. We need flex, then items center. Next, I'm going to add justify center. We have to center the content both vertically and horizontally. Then let's define the size of the text. It's going to be an arbitrary value, 13 pixels. Then I'm going to change the color of the text. Let's use text gray, 500. And also create some space at the top using margin top with the value 6. Alright, after that, I'm going to customize the span elements. So let's add here class name. Actually, we need here class name. I'm going to define the position of the span element, and it's going to be absolute. Then we need left position with the value 50%, 1/2. Then we need width to be max, which means max content. Also, I'm going to add here flex layout. We need flex followed by item center. And then I'm going to rotate the elements, but with the negative value, we need minus rotate 90 degrees. And we have to rotate the elements. Actually, let's check the results. So that's the way how the copyright text looks right now. Now I'm going to change the origin of its transformation, the rotation. Right now it is rotated from the center, and we have to change the origin and make it bottom left, and then it will be placed in the correct way. So I'm going to add here origin bottom left, and if we check the results, you'll see that now it's placed in the correct way. Alright, finally I'm going to add here tracking wide, actually tracking wider, to create some space between the letters of the text. Alright, so now that we've created the content of the navbar and styled it, it's time to move on to making our code more dynamic by replacing the hard-coded data with the data from our index.js file. Let's open it and place it on the right side. I'm going to find data for navbar. So here we have it. So as you can see, the data for the navbar is already set up in our index.js file, and it includes all the links and icons we need for the various sections of our site. This data will allow us to dynamically generate each navbar link, making the component more scalable, especially if we decide to add or change sections later on. In the index.js file, the navbar data array holds the essential information that powers the links in our dynamic navbar. Each item in this array represents a section of the site with 3 key properties: an ID, name, and icon. The ID is a unique identifier for each section, typically matching the section's ID in the HTML structure, so that clicking the navbar link scrolls the page to the correct section. The name property holds the display name of the section, which will appear as the text next to the icon when the user hovers over the link. And finally, the icon is an imported React component, visually representing each section in the navbar, helping users quickly identify sections through both text and also the symbols. These icons are also imported from a separate set of assets, which keeps the code modular and easy to maintain. The array allows us to loop through each entry dynamically, rendering the necessary links without manually coding them into the navbar.js component. This approach ensures that as we update or expand the site, we can easily modify the navigation by adjusting the data in one place within the navbar data array, making it both efficient and scalable for future changes. The next step is to bring this data into our navbar component. We will import it so that the component can access the array, which will then allow us to dynamically create the links based on the data inside navbar data array. So I'm going to import navbar data from assets. And now we have to replace the hard-coded links with the dynamic ones. First, we will loop through the navbar data array using the map method. So inside here, I'm going to open curly braces, and then we need navbar data dot map with a callback function which will have two parameters, item and the index I. Now I'm going to cut the link and paste it inside the parentheses. So here we iterate over each item in the array and create a new link for every section of the site. Inside the map function, we will use each object in the array containing the section ID, icon, and name to build out each individual link. Again, by dynamically creating these elements, we no longer need to manually code each navigation link. So now, as you remember, we have to add here key prop with the value I. So here I represents the current item in the navbar data array, and as you already know, this key prop is important because it gives React a way to uniquely identify each link when rendering the list. After that, I'm going to replace the hard-coded icon with the dynamic value from the navbar data array. So instead of this text here, I'm going to insert item.icon. And in the same way, I'm going to replace the name. So we need here item.name. Now if we go to the browser, you will see here all the icons of different sections, and on hover we see the names of the sections. Okay, so everything works perfectly. Now we're going to dynamically display the copyright part at the bottom of the navbar. This includes showing the copyright icon and the range of years starting from 2019 up to the current year. So let's go back to the VS Code. The first thing that we have to do is to import copyright icon from assets. I mean this icon. So we need to add here copyright icon. And then instead of this letter, I'm going to insert copyright icon. Next, we have to dynamically generate the current year. So instead of 2024, which is now a hard-coded data, I'm going to insert curly braces with new data object. And we have to add here a method called get full year. So what this code does is call JavaScript's built-in data object, which gives us the current date and time. We then extract just the year from this date by chaining the getFullYear method, which returns the current year as a 4-digit number. This ensures that the copyright notice will always display the current year without needing to be manually updated. So when we put it all together, we are essentially displaying the copyright icon, followed by the range of years from 2019 to the current year. This is particularly useful for websites that are maintained over time, as it ensures the copyright information is always up to date automatically. So now if we go to the browser, we will see here the copyright sign, followed by the range of years from 2019 to the current year, which in this case is 2024. Now we're going to make our navbar fully functional, and to do that we need to assign unique IDs to each section of our page, allowing the navbar link to navigate to the corresponding section when clicked. Alright, so now we're going to make our navbar fully functional. But before we do that, I think that navbar is wider than it should be. Let's check the finished version. So as you can see, it is wider. Let's check the code. So we have here width. Actually, we're missing here pixels. That's why the navbar is wider. Now, as you can see, everything works fine. Okay, so as I said, we're going to make our navbar fully functional. To do that, we need to assign unique IDs to each section of our page, allowing the navbar link to navigate to the corresponding section when clicked. This will let the user easily scroll between different sections by clicking on the navbar icons. We will start by adding an ID to each component so that the navbar can link to them. These IDs will correspond to the sections of the site that we're navigating. So I'm going to close index.js file, we no longer need it. And then I'm going to open each component and add ID to the wrapper div elements. So I'm going to start with the hero section. We need ID, which is going to be home. And actually we need ID home for logo as well. So I'm going to add here /home. Then let's close hero. I'm going to open about the JSX file, and I'm going to add here ID. It's going to be about. Next we have experience. The ID is going to be experience. Next, I'm going to open skills section. Let's add here ID skills. Then we need to open reviews section. Let's add here ID reviews. Then I'm going to open projects. After that, we need pricing and contact. So let's add here ID. It's going to be pricing. Actually, we need space. So let's add here pricing. And then I'm going to open contact. Let's add here ID, contact. And finally, I'm going to open question section. Let's add here ID with the value questions. All right. So next we have to update the hrefs attribute of each link element inside the navbar to match these IDs. So I'm going to close this component, and inside here, let's find link element. I mean this link element here. So I'm going to change the value of hrefs attribute. Instead of quotes, we need here template strings, and then I'm going to insert /$, then we need $, followed by the curly braces, and I'm going to insert here item.id. So it will now point to the relevant section on the page. Once we do this, clicking on any navbar link will scroll to the corresponding section. Let's go to the browser and click the links. So, as you can see, now we are navigating to different sections, and actually everything works fine. So we are not done yet. To make the scrolling between sections smoother, we will need to set up a small CSS tweak. We will add the following to the globals.css file. Let's open it and select HTML. I'm going to add here scroll behavior with the value smooth, and also we need to add here important. So we use important here to ensure that this CSS property takes precedence over any other conflicting styles that may be applied to the HTML element elsewhere in your code or via external libraries. The important here guarantees that smooth scrolling will always be enforced when navigating through the page, preventing other styles from accidentally overriding it. So I'm going to go to the browser. Now if we click the links, then we will get this nice and cool scrolling effect. All right, let's click other links as well. So after some clicks, as you can see, we have a small problem here. The navbar stops responding and the navigation functionality becomes unresponsive. This happens because the navbar is ending up behind some sections, and to fix that, we simply need to apply the z-index property, ensuring the navbar stays on top of all elements and remains clickable regardless of how far the user scrolls down the page. So let's go back to the VS Code and add to the div element z-index property with the value, let's say 10. Now, if we scroll, then everything will work perfectly and we no longer will have the same problems. Okay, so everything works fine, and now in addition to this, we need to set up an intersection observer to improve the navigation experience. The reason for setting up the observer is to keep track of which section is currently in view as the user scrolls through the page. This way we can dynamically update the active state of the navbar links, ensuring the highlighted link always corresponds to the section currently in view. By doing this, we create a smooth, responsive navigation experience where the user can easily see which section they are in and switch between sections effortlessly. Let's go back to the VS Code and open page.js file. So the observer works by watching each section of the page, detecting when it enters or leaves the viewport. Once a section comes into view, the observer triggers an update, telling the navbar to activate the corresponding link. This ensures that the navigation experience is dynamic and always tracks the user's scrolling behavior, no matter how many times the links are clicked. So let's go ahead and set up the intersection observer. First, we need to create a piece of state that will store the ID of the section currently in view. This ID will help us determine which link in the navbar should be highlighted as the user scrolls through different sections. So here I'm going to create new state variable. It's going to be ID. Then we need the updater function, set ID. It should be equal to useStateHook. And the default value is going to be 0. We need to import useState from React. So here the ID variable holds the value of the currently active section, and setID is the function we will use to update this value. We initialize it with 0, which means no section is active by default. As we scroll through the page, the ID will update to match the section in view. Now, we need to set up a reference to the wrapper element that contains all of our sections. This will allow us to observe these sections individually and detect when each one comes into view. So I'm going to create a new variable. It's going to be components, reference, ref. It should be equal to useRef, and the default value is going to be null. We have to import useRefHook from React as well. So here, by using useRefHook, we are creating a reference object which will be assigned to the container that wraps all our sections. This reference will help us target the children of that container for observation. Now that we've created the state variable and the reference, the next step is to attach them to the navbar component and the wrapper div that holds all the sections of the page. By doing this now, we are setting the stage for the intersection observer to track which section of the page is currently in view and update the navbar accordingly. So to attach the state variable, we need to pass ID as a prop to the navbar component, and the value is going to be ID. So this will allow the navbar to dynamically adjust its behavior based on the current section in view. This ensures that every time the ID updates when a section intersects with the viewport, the navbar gets the new value and highlights the corresponding link. Next, we will attach the reference, compsRef, to the wrapper div that contains all the sections. So here we need ref, which will be equal to compsRef. This allows the intersection observer to track all the child elements inside this wrapper, meaning it will monitor when each section enters or exits the viewport. By setting this up right now, we are preparing the components for the observer logic that we'll implement shortly. This way, the sections and the navbar will be fully connected and ready to respond dynamically to user scrolling. Next, we need to set up the useEffectHook to manage the behavior of the intersection observer, which is responsible for detecting which section of the page is currently in view. Since we want the intersection observer to be created and run when the component is mounted, it is essential to place this logic inside useEffectHook. This hook runs the observer setup only once when the component is first rendered, ensuring that our observer can begin monitoring the sections right from the start. So I'm going to add here useEffectHook. We need to import it from React. Then, as you know, we need to insert here a callback function, which is the first parameter. And also we need the second parameter, a dependency array. Next, within this useEffect hook, I'm going to initialize a new intersection observer. So we need to create new variable. It's going to be observer, and it should be equal to new intersection observer. So this is a browser API that tracks the visibility of elements on the screen. It can detect when elements enter or leave the viewport, making it perfect for scenarios where we want to dynamically update the UI based on which part of the page is visible. The intersection observer constructor will take two arguments, a callback function and an options object. So first, let's go ahead and set up the callback function. We need here parameter entries. And inside here, I'm going to write the code and then I will explain everything. I'm going to insert entries followed by the for each method. Then we need a callback function with a parameter entry. Then inside here, I'm going to create new variable, which is going to be intersecting. And it should be equal to entry dot is intersecting. Then after that, we need if statements where we have to check if intersecting is true or false. We need intersecting. And I'm going to insert here set ID function, which is an updater function in our state variable. I'm going to add here entry dot target dot ID. So here the entries parameter is an array of objects where each object contains information about one of the elements being observed by the intersection observer. This array gives us real-time data about each section, such as whether it is currently intersecting, visible, in the viewport, and other metrics about its position. Inside the callback function, we'll loop through each entry in the entries array. Each entry represents a section of the page that the observer is watching. We extract the isIntersecting property from each entry. This property is a boolean that tells us whether the section is currently visible in the viewport. If isIntersecting is true, it means that at least part of the section is visible to the user. If the section is visible, we use setID to update the state of the ID variable with the ID of the section that is currently in view. This dynamically keeps track of which section is visible on the page, and we use this information to update the corresponding link in the navbar, so it can be highlighted. The second argument we pass to the intersection observer is the options object. So here I'm going to insert an object with the property called threshold, and the value is going to be 0.3. So here the threshold property specifies how much of a section needs to be visible for it to be considered in view. We set it to 0.3, meaning that 30% of the section must be visible in the viewport before we trigger the callback. This value ensures that sections will be considered in view once a decent portion of them is visible, preventing the observer from triggering too early or too late. Now that we've set up the intersection observer itself, the next step is to ensure that it starts observing the correct elements on the page. These are the sections that correspond to each link in our navbar. To do that, we need to identify these sections and instruct the observer to start tracking their visibility. We accomplish this by converting the sections into an array, looping through each of them, and telling the observer to monitor their appearance in the viewport. So let's go ahead and walk through this process in detail. First, we have to use the compsRef reference, which we previously attached to the parent container of all the components in our app. Now we need to convert the children of this reference into an array that we can loop through. So here, I'm going to create a new variable. It's going to be components array. It should be equal to array.from. And we have to insert here compsRef.current.children we use an array.from to convert the children HTML collection into a proper array. By doing this, we can easily loop through it and apply the observer to each child. The result is comps array, which is an array where each element corresponds to a section on the page. Next, we need to loop through this array and tell the observer to start monitoring each section. So, after this line of code, we need comps array dot for each. Next, we need a callback function with the parameter component. And inside the callback function, we need observer dot observe, and we have to pass here comp. So here we use for each to loop through each component in the comps array. For each section, we call observer dot observe, which registers that section with the intersection observer. Now the observer will start tracking the visibility of each section as the user scrolls through the page. The observe method essentially tells the observer to watch each individual section for when it enters or exits the viewport. Thanks to the observer we set up just now, as soon as a section becomes visible, the callback function will be triggered, updating our ID state to the correct section's ID. So to recap, this block of code converts the child components of our reference container into an array and then tells the observer to observe each section individually. This ensures that all the sections are monitored and our navbar can dynamically highlight the correct link based on which section the user is currently viewing. Now that we've set up our observer, we need to make our navbar dynamic by linking the navigation highlights to the section that is currently visible. We'll begin by passing down the ID prop to the navbar component. So let's go to the navbar.jsx file. This ID will help us identify which section is currently in view, and based on that we can change the styles of the links dynamically. So let's go ahead and extract ID from the components so we can start using it to conditionally apply styles. Now the ID prop will hold the current section's ID, allowing us to compare it to each link's ID and highlight the active one accordingly. Next, we need to modify the styles of the navbar links. Specifically, we want to apply a conditional style change to the icons. By default, the icon should be yellow, but if it's the active section, the icon should be red, slightly larger and scaled. So let's go ahead and replace the static styling we have for the icon with a dynamic class. So I'm going to cut all the classes from here. Then let's get rid of those quotes and open curly braces with template strings. Then paste back the classes. So here I'm going to add $sign with curly braces, in which we need a condition item.id equals to ID. If it is true, then we need to add here text red 500 and also scale 110. If it is false, then we need text yellow 600 and also scale 100. Besides that, we have to get rid of text yellow from here. So with this change, we are comparing the ID prop of the current section to the item.id for each navbar link. If they match, we apply the styles for an active link, making the icon red and slightly larger. If not, we use the default styles, keeping the icon yellow and at its normal size. The hover effect is still present, scaling the icon when the user hovers over it. Alright, so let's go to the browser. Actually, we have an error here. Comps array for each is not a function. We have a typo. We need camel case. So let's fix that problem. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, the home icon is already red. Let's click other links. So as you can see, once we click the links, they change their color. I mean, the icons change their color. And if we just scroll down, the icons will change their color. So once the section comes into view, the icon is changing its color. Alright, so now we have to take care of the names of the sections. Let's go back to the navbar.jsx file. So we have to update the text styles for the label that appears next to each icon. This label is hidden by default, but on hover it slides in. We want to ensure that the label corresponding to the active section is always visible and aligned properly, so without waiting for hover. I'm going to update this class name. Let's cut those classes, then change those quotes into template strings, paste back the classes. Again, we need here conditional statements, so I'm going to add $sign with curly braces. So we have to add here I modulus 2 equal to 0. We are checking if the element is even or odd. So if this is true, then we need translate x2. And if it is false, then we need minus translate x2. Besides that, we need here again $sign with curly braces, and I'm going to insert here item.id equals to ID. Then we need AND operator and the classes minus translate x0, and also we need opacity 100. From the default styles, we can get rid of this class name. So the first conditional expression is checking the index of the current link in the navbar data array, which is represented by I. The logic here is simple. If the index I is even, we apply a class that translates the element to the right by 2 units, which is represented by translate x2 class. If the index is odd, we apply the opposite translation, minus translate x2, which moves the element to the left by 2 units. This adds a subtle alternating animation effect, creating a dynamic and visually interesting movement as users hover over the links. The second conditional is tied to the functionality of highlighting the currently active section in the navbar. We check if the item.id of the current link matches the ID of the section currently in view. If this condition is true, we dynamically add 2 classes, minus translate x0 and opacity 100. The minus translate x0 class ensures that the link text is fully visible, resetting any translation effects caused by hovering or alternating styles. The opacity 100 class makes the text fully opaque, indicating that this is the active link, helping users easily identify which section they are currently viewing. So let's go to the browser and test if it works. So as you can see, now the names of the sections are visible. Let's scroll up. So as you can see, everything works perfectly. We have here nice and cool effects, and the navbar is fully functional. Alright, so to wrap things up, we've successfully built and styled the navbar, making it fully functional with smooth navigation between sections. We explored how to set up the intersection observer to keep the navbar in sync as we scroll through the page. We also added conditional styling to highlight the active sections to ensure a smooth, interactive user experience. The result is a polished and responsive navbar that will serve as an essential part of our project's user interface. If you found this part helpful, don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upcoming tutorial. Also, feel free to drop a comment below if you have any questions or thoughts. We'd love to hear your feedback. In the next part, we're going to dive into adding dark mode to our project, a feature that's not only trendy but also enhances accessibility and user experience. It's going to be an exciting step, so make sure to stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.